So we're going to talk about social media today. So this might be very redundant for experienced groups, and it might be great for new groups. Great information. But we're certainly, by no means am I saying I'm a social media expert. I certainly know CLL does a great job and a lot of work in their social media. But this is an opportunity just to give you an overview of what we think attracts patients and gives information to patients. So certainly this is just something that we're giving you as information. So, today, in today's world, communication changes at light speed. You blink and there's something new out there to communicate with people. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google, LinkedIn, these are all different social media platforms.
Okay, the title and layout with chart, what is social media? As Cheryl has just said, we use Twitter. I suppose I'll speak a little bit about CLL Ireland, and maybe you'll speak about the MPNs, and there'll be some stuff that the MPN community do that's different, and we all learn it off each other. And actually all of you as an organisation, when we're all watching what each other are doing. But what in CLL Ireland, obviously we did the Facebook page, the Twitters, the LinkedIn, the different forms of media. Kind of different people were kind of linking in with us. On LinkedIn, we had the doctors and we had the scientific community linking in. On Facebook, we had the patient community. On the Twitter, kind of everybody is on Twitter. And actually, I think Twitter actually was maybe a good for the political space. And really what we found is when we have a girl called Kira that does our social media back in Ireland, and she set up a system in place that we would look at posts that were coming from around the world, and we would put them up on Twitter. We would vet them ourselves, and we pretty much knew because of our knowledge of CLL and the people that they were coming from that this was relevant to our patient community. We didn't always get it right. The Irish Cancer Society would maybe contact us the odd time and say, oh, I wouldn't put that one up. Something that we didn't realise was maybe more alternative. I suppose we can talk further about that, about the pitfalls. But that's really what we would do if you want to.
So, and one of the things that I have found in my own organization is developing that social media strategy. You can't do everything, and you can't be that whole entire person who does everything. So really focus on, for me, what I've done is I focused on Facebook, Twitter, and I don't do Instagram for our Canadian group. I just focus on the Facebook page and a private page. So we have the private page for the patients to have dialogue to one another, and then we have our open page where we post. As well as for the MPN Advocates Network, we have a page which is open to the public, and then we have a private group where advocates can share amongst one another, and it's private and it just stays private. So really you need to think about the strategy, your social media strategy that you're going to use, and try and do that as best as you can. And it does not have to be all-encompassing. Email address is a great database, so when you can collect email addresses from patients or patient advocates in your community, then that's a great database to start to be able to send out newsletters to be able to send out and update information. So those are really important. So what is social media? Just a general term used for any interactive digital technology, as we've talked: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, blogs, and webinars. So what are the real benefits of social media? Well, the organization's message will reach a wider audience. It strengthens and builds relationship. It engages your community. It facilitates collaboration, mobilizes your community around the issues that are important to them, and creates advocates. And it's easier and broader for dissemination of information.
Okay, so the do's in social media is to provide value, strategize, be genuine, listen, and be creative. And I suppose what I view social media kind of for two different reasons. One was we're patient-led organisation, CLL Ireland, so we're trying to tell the patients about the new drugs, clinical trials, so anything that's announced at ASH we would put up. But that's not really the form that patients would maybe communicate with each other about the problems now that they would have on a day-to-day basis living with the diseases. So what we do, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, and what we looked at is in the UK, Nick York was one of the founding members of Health Unlocked, and the CLL element of Health Unlocked to date has 9,500 CLL members that all have registered. They all speak to each other, they tell each other their problems, it's all private. Well, not private, it's public, but they used a made-up name, so you can't speak to patients privately. What has happened is there's 9,500 members to date, and 50% of them are active on a daily basis, so you've got 4,500. So in Ireland, being a small country, we weren't going to reinvent the wheel and do a kind of a Health Unlocked for Ireland. We found important, it was my wife's diagnosed with CLL, that it was important to reach out to the international community, and that's where our information came from. So what I suppose to be creative is that when you set up your social media, make a decision. If you're going to have a Facebook page, maybe you'll have a Facebook page for the stuff that comes from the American Society of Haematology, the different things that happen around the world, but then think about what you're going to do for your patient communities. And maybe Ireland, because we're a small population, I think the Health Unlocked is something that we're going to tap into and work a bit more, so.
Absolutely. And the creativeness, I think, is, so if you're an advocate and you're not a patient, put yourself in that patient's position. What would you expect to see as a patient, or what would you like to interact with as a patient? So if you're a caregiver like myself, then I ask my husband, what would you like to see as a patient, or what kind of information would you like to get? So then I can get that patient perspective. So strategizing, we talked a little bit, but we want you to be efficient. So again, don't try and be all and do all. Determine your audience and the goals that you want to achieve. Select the social technology that best fits for you and meets those goals. So again, for the Canadian MPN network and the MPN advocates, my time, I focus on Facebook, Twitter, and then of course after the conference, YouTube, to put all the slides up and the videos, so that way we get that. So we utilize those to our capacity as best as possible. And of course, use photos and videos and anything else that you can get from any events that you have, because it's a visual learning as well. People will, if they have to read everything, they'll skip over it and they will pass it by. But if they see a photo, it will attract them to the message. So it's really important to use photos. This is just a picture of our MPN advocates Facebook page. Social bookmarking is another opportunity to utilize social media, as well as RRS readers, which is kind of like the health network that Michael was referring to. Microblogging, digs, that's something I never heard of when I was doing the research for this. So if anybody has any experience with that, let us know. And conversations. It's really important to have that dialogue and those conversations with your patients, other advocates. A lot of these terms are business terms, but they're really relevant to our patient communities. So markets are conversations. So our patient community is a conversation opportunity for our patients to have dialogue. Again, markets are getting smaller, more informed. We know that our patients and their caregivers and partners all go on Dr. Google. They get all the information that they need from there. Then they start talking. So it's really about the opportunity to draw them in, make sure that they get the right information, that they're listening to the right individuals, and not making assumptions on their own part. Yeah, no problem. On misinformation. The networked market, so our community of patients, they know more than what the doctors know about their own, about the diseases in some cases. We know patients will go to the doctor and say, hey, this clinical trial, I saw it on, as we just talked about, and the doctor's going, oh, okay, that's interesting. Let me, get back to you. So really, our patients are very informed, and their families. As an organization, we don't realize that our markets are so highly networked, and patients talk to one another on the Facebook pages, through Twitter, through any other social media, and they're getting smarter. They're getting more, they're embracing social media much more to communicate and have those conversations. And we can communicate daily or hourly. With Twitter, every hour you could Twitter something if you had someone dedicated to, but people will come back. If you get that hook into them, they will come back on a daily basis looking for that new tidbit of information, that new, that update. So it's really important to keep your message consistent and consistently going forward on your social media. And of course, people and community members that don't belong to the community, they'll be out of the know. So, really, if they're not in, their knowledge base won't grow. So it's really important that they be embraced in the community and that they move forward. Reaching the right people is, the long tail effect is reaching the small communities on the web, from your website. People who may not live in the urban centers, who live out in the countryside and see a community hematologist. In Alberta, Canada, where I live, we've got a whole group of people, MPN patients who don't live in the city, who live 5 hours away from the major city, and they live in rural Alberta. So the internet is their only way to get that information, or social media. Connecting with people, again, if you get them into a meeting, giving them that information, and Michael's got a really great
Very
example.
small, you can take a copy.
Where you can, when you get people to come into patients to come into a patient meeting, you can give them that little, bookmark or pamphlet to give them the web address or give them the social media that you're using. And it's important to keep your branding consistent on everything you do. So make sure that it has your logo on every piece of paper that you give out. Don't give out one that looks one way and another that looks another way. You want to keep it consistent. And that way you're going to generate more traffic. More people are going to come. If everything is consistent and has very good information on it, more people will hit your social media sites, and making sure that that information is consistent across all of your social media sites. And that will just keep enlarging your patient base as it grows. The more people will come on your sites. So just some actions to undertake is go and meet users on the internet. So go out and make sure that you're hitting the populations. You're putting your website out with all the hematologists, whether they're MPN specialists or community hematologists or GPs that you may know that in rural areas treat PV and ET and MF in the rural areas. Set up your tools so that your patients, that you can share that information with your patients about what you're doing. Offer on your website, hey, we have Facebook, we have forums, we have online surveys. Make sure that that's very prominent so that people don't have to search through the website or your other social media sites to find that information. You want that to be very bold and upfront. And again, connecting with your patients, or, in this case, business word is customers, but be present online on social network. Make sure that you as an administrator or your administrator who is looking after your social media goes on a timely basis, consistently, and sees what is being written, seeing the interaction, because that's going to give you the impetus of future information that you're going to put on there. Maybe the stuff that you're putting on your social media, nobody has interest in, so then it's going to die. They're not going to go back to your social media because they don't find the information that you're putting on there relevant. So you need to go on. Your administrator needs to be on the social media every day, at least once a day, in my opinion, to make it effective and efficient. And again, replay, offline campaigns. So if you have a video, make sure that you get that video on your website, or replay it, and you can program it to replay or play on demand, podcasting, things like that, because that's really what is great for people who can't make an event. So if you have a speaker who comes to a patient advocacy event, videotape them. And then put that video on your website. Put it on your YouTube link. Put it on the Facebook page or the Facebook group that you have, so that people in outlying areas who couldn't get to the event can see it. So engage in some product testing. So if you've never utilized a platform, a social media platform like Diggs, I don't know a thing about it, experiment with it and see, if it does fit your needs as an organization. Share and present the information that you have from your organization to bloggers in order to engage in a viral wave. There's lots of bloggers out there who will pick up a message that you have. So if you have a blogger in your area, in your city or your country that, they talk about community events and they go off, get in connection with them, because that's really important. They'll take your message and they'll spread it, and it will go viral. triggering the conversation, so engaging your conversation, whether it be in a blog or chat room, and make sure that you post those, with hashtags, so it comes back to your website or comes back to your Twitter account. You really need to get that feedback, and by utilizing those hashtags and conversation tidbits will give you the opportunity to know what's relevant or what the buzz is in your patient community. And again, develop an honest and viral state of mind. Again, be very open and honest on your social media. Again, a good disclaimer is that we are not medical professionals. We're patient advocates. We do not give medical information here. If you're seeking medical information, please see your doctor. Very, very important, because we don't want to give the perception that we're giving medical information out.
Okay, some behaviours to embrace. Embrace transparency. Do not post with fake names. I suppose that's the different forms on Health Unlocked. We advise that you use a fake name. Do not delete critical comments. Don't be afraid and respond to them. I suppose that would do with the Health Unlocked as well, where rows break out. And I suppose Cheryl has spoken about it, about setting up a structure within your group that we deal with CLL, MPN, that the knowledgeable people in your organisation. What we did in CLL Ireland is we have Ciara that looks after uploading all the information, but what we do is we actually give her the information. Because I'm a caregiver and my wife is a patient, it's like you said, you ask your husband. So that's where the information, and Ciara then sends us something and said, is it okay to put this up? And we have made a few mistakes along the way, not many, we've done very well at it, but generally now for 12 months, the stuff that we put up, there's no issues. Build trust by showing that you're truly listening. Again, that's on the forums when patients are talking to each other. And you need to, if that forum grows big, like you have many people, 800 people and all, you need your administrators that are on, that if somebody comes on and maybe is putting the wrong information up, we're always very fearful of that. We try and stay away from the religious stuff and the alternative medicines, and as you know yourself, the dangers that can bring.
One of the things with having moderators is making sure that you put the rules of the social media up. So if you have a Facebook page, identify those rules of what's acceptable for patients to post. And if patients don't adhere to those posts, or caregivers or whoever's participating, don't be afraid to take that post down and send a note to that individual saying, you know what, thanks for your comment, but the rules of the page or the rules of this forum are such, and unfortunately we can't continue your comment. And just, let them know. That's being open, honest, frank, and transparent, and just letting them know that is either, not acceptable, or if you rephrase it in a different way, then we'd gladly have it on there. So combining your tools, making sure that you use all your multimedia, again, consistently, leveraging your message by using multiple social media sites. One media or one profile really isn't enough to see effects, to get it out to your whole broader audience, and combining the multiple tools will make you very successful. Again, read all the conversations that are done about your patient group. Participate in these conversations from your administrators. Respond quickly. So if somebody leaves a message asking for some information, try and get back to them within 24 hours, because if you don't, you'll have lost them. And share quality content. Again, maybe your administrators have to check with executive or someone in the organization to make sure that a response or a paper or a position, a medical position, is correct information, and make sure that it's quality and correct. Responsiveness. Oh, sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
I have an easy job here. This is great. Okay, what actions to measure? Buzz, see how the person in charge is doing. Responsiveness, I suppose, in your organisation, if few of you are actually watching what's going on, that you can kind of keep an eye on each other. Responsive communication could be lower than 24 hours. I suppose we have actually made that mistake, that someone has left something on and we didn't respond, and then they contacted. They got on to actually the CLL Sport Association, and someone said, CLL Ireland are there. And they said, oh, I sent a message. And that's where we actually saw it. We picked up on another form. So it really, really is important that the patients, because it's a big thing when they contact you looking. Number of quality blog posts, number of meaningful comments, and quality of content shared. you know.
So one of the things here that I'd like to mention is that if you do receive grant funding from our industry partners, they have KPIs that they have to report on, key performance indicators. So it's really important to be able to, when you do things, to have it measurable so that you can give them the statistics that they need to report back to their organization. So try and keep what you have to give to what they require in mind when you're doing your stuff. So if it's measurable, make sure that you can track it, or you can count how many posts you've done or how many people have replied to a post that you've put on. Make sure that you can measure that, because your industry partner, that's the way the business is going. From pharma, they're going to ask you, well, what was the return on me giving you $10,000 for your website? Well, then you can say, well, you know what, we increased, we redid our website, we increased people looking at our website by 50%. There's been, an upswing in people coming to our website. We can show you that this time last year there was X amount of people, and this year we have 50% more. So that's what they're looking for. They're looking for those key performance indicators that we can give to them. Traffic and quality, again, number of links to other sites. You want to work with other blood cancer groups in your area or other MPN groups around the world. Let's all link one another together so that our patients have that information from all over the world. Because certainly a patient in the UK, a patient in Canada, a patient in India, a patient in Italy, all have the same illness burden. So let's, connect those folks so that they get the same consistent information all across the world. So again, you can set up Google Alerts to give you information. You can create a Techni or Addy account to, again, scan the internet for you for new blogs, new papers, new posts. If it has the name Polycythemia vera in it, it will pop up and it'll say this paper, has just come online today. Just again, there's all these different sites that you can use to give you that information. This is just a copy of MPN Cancer Connection and their blog. Email addresses, need to be, your email address should be visible on your website or any other social media. You don't want to miss the opportunity to interact. And I see we're just about out of time. So again, Facebook. This is a sample Facebook page from CLL, from the MPN Horizons. Twitter, and that's the examples that CLL uses, and different tools.
And actually, just to go, can you go back on that one? Just actually, what we use Hootsuite a lot. What we do is that if you're not able to go online once a day and put up content, that Hootsuite is a facility. I don't know whether any of you know, and I have to be honest, I don't know how to use it. Kira, that's why she put our picture up. Kira does all our social media. That you can put it up, and it can go on a timeline. So you could put up 5 posts and it can go on, I think we have to wrap it up now. So,
we do, because they're waiting at the door. So if you have any questions, grab us after.